In Britain, we rely on our elected politicians to make all the decisions, with the cabinet setting the agenda for Parliament to debate and vote on. But the Swiss use a system called direct democracy, which gives people the right to vote on key policy issues in open referendums, often up to 4 times a year.
As a Swiss citizen, 4 times a year you get asked to vote about anything from a change to a constitution, to a referendum, to a law, to a vote for people. Basically at any part of the legislative process, there are ways that anyone can start either an initiative, so something new, or a referendum on an existing piece of legislation, and then it has to be put to vote for the people.
We also had package holidays. You would go on a holiday, and on Tuesday you'd have to go out on the bus trip, and on the Thursday you'd have to go to the art exhibition, and on the Friday you'd be maybe going off to the beach or whatever. But those sort of package holidays, those sort of one fits all. That's how we used to have. Nowadays, I want to go on my own holiday. I want to organize everything myself. Because that's sort of what we know. We are individualized consumers. We're individualists. We want to have our cake and eat it. Now we can have that as consumers. We can't have that in politics. So I might vote for a party that is economically conservative and also conservative on social matters. But it might be that I want to vote for a party that is, progressive on say LGBTQ rights, but is conservative when it comes to economic affairs.
Democracy is a complicated issue. For millennia, philosophers have debated how to create the most effective democracy. As President Jimmy Carter once said, the experience of democracy is like the experience of life itself, always changing. So whilst in the building behind me our officials make decisions on our behalf, elected through first past the post, many other systems are used around the world. Maybe it's time for Britain to change.
I wouldn't be supportive of that model in this country. I mean, it works in Switzerland for them. I think better examples for us include the Citizens' Assembly work in Northern Ireland that's helped them resolve really thorny issues like abortion, gay marriage. And I think they could help us tackle some of the profound challenges we've got in this country, such as climate change.
Such a system can only work in a proportional democracy, proportional representation, and that's the UK doesn't have this. And without proportional representation, direct democracy will be very difficult.
If it works in Switzerland, if it works in all the German Länder or states, if it can work in Italy, why couldn't it work here? So yes, it could work, but the problem is that politicians don't really want it to work, or they may not want to introduce it to work. Why would they introduce a thing that would limit their powers?
I think with direct democracy, you basically boil down the decisions to a final binary yes or no on a proposition. Actually, there's very few things in life, certainly not in British public life and politics, that can be just boiled down to a simple question. Instead, through proper deliberation, as we call it, you can get through all the issues and then set out the range of options for a population that perhaps decision makers here then would act on. And I think that's a better way to have a more adult, less binary, more realistic conversation.
Now, when you hear the word referendum, alarm bells might start ringing out as you think of Brexit. But that was inherently different to how direct democracy is supposed to work.
The British referendum was failed on every rule of referendum. First, it was called by the government in Switzerland. The government is the only group who cannot call a referendum. No? It didn't have a qualified majority, so for important things we have a qualified majority, so it's not only a majority of the people but also a majority of the cantons.
If the people had decided that they wanted to have a referendum, that would be different. Before the Brexit referendum, I think leaving the EU was number 9 out of all the issues that people would put up. So Brexit is unlikely to have made it onto the ballot if we had a system like the one that they have in Switzerland.
So whether we brought in a similar system to direct democracy or not, could we learn lessons from Switzerland?
You can reflect on the Brexit referendum, the Scottish independence referendum. People do want a greater say. There is a dissatisfaction with our politics. I don't think anyone would doubt that. If you look at turnout at national level elections, never mind local elections, police commissioner elections. So I think we do need to do things differently. So, the Swiss model is one model. The options I've talked about are another. What I would like to see happen next is a constitutional convention where we get citizens, we go up and down the country and we talk to people about the options for renewing our democracy. And that could take all sorts of things, whether that's the voting system, whether that's, more direct models, whether that's deliberative models, and just, reflect with people on what we might want to do differently to try and build in more engagement, more confidence, more interest. And I think that would be a really positive thing.